GAC Security Leadership, often shortened to GSLC, is a cybersecurity leadership certification for professionals who need to understand both the management side and the technical side of security. It is not just about memorizing policy terms, and it is not only for people who already run large security organizations. This credential sits in the space where security programs, technical controls, risk decisions, operations, vendors, projects, and business expectations all meet. That makes it useful for early career professionals who are beginning to see that cybersecurity work is not only about tools, alerts, and tickets. It is also about judgment, communication, prioritization, and building security programs that support the organization. This episode is part of the Monday Certified feature from Bare Metal Cyber Magazine, and it focuses on what the certification is, who it fits, what the exam really tests, and how to prepare in a practical way.
If this certification is on your study list, a free and complete audio course is available in the Bare Metal Cyber Academy at baremetalcyber.com, complete with a study guide and a second ebook featuring 1,000 flashcard questions.
The credential is issued by GAC, which stands for Global Information Assurance Certification. It is best understood as a security leadership and management credential with a practical technical foundation. It is not an entry-level cybersecurity awareness certificate, and it is not a narrow hands-on penetration testing, forensics, or cloud engineering exam. Instead, it validates whether a candidate can think across the security lifecycle, understand how technical controls support business goals, and recognize how security programs are managed in real organizations. That combination is important because many security problems are not solved by technology alone. They are solved by people making better decisions with the right information, the right controls, and the right priorities.
The certification is often a strong fit for people who are moving from technical execution into team lead, supervisor, manager, project lead, security program, or governance-related roles. That can include security analysts who are becoming senior analysts, system administrators who are taking on security responsibilities, IT managers who oversee security work, and cyber professionals who need to communicate more effectively with leadership. It may also fit risk, compliance, audit, and operations professionals who need stronger technical context for security program decisions. The common thread is not a single job title. The common thread is responsibility. If your work is starting to involve decisions, coordination, planning, prioritization, and communication across teams, this certification may be relevant.
For an early career professional, the exam usually makes the most sense after some exposure to real IT or cybersecurity work. You do not need to be a Chief Information Security Officer to benefit from it, but you should be ready to think beyond individual tasks. The exam assumes that security exists inside an organization with budgets, staff, users, policies, vendors, incidents, projects, executives, and competing priorities. That is a different mindset from studying one tool or one technical topic in isolation. You are being asked to understand how security works as a managed program.
A useful way to think about GSLC is that it is broader than a technical operations exam, more applied than a general business management course, and more security-specific than a generic leadership credential. It helps connect technical security controls to program-level decision-making. That blend is the point. The credential rewards people who can see both the system and the people operating inside it. Security leaders do not need to be the deepest expert in every subject, but they do need enough understanding to ask better questions, spot weak plans, support good decisions, and explain security needs in language the organization can act on.
GAC is one of the better-known certification bodies in cybersecurity, especially for credentials connected to practical security skills and role-based knowledge. Its certifications are commonly associated with SANS training, although certification and training are not the same thing. In the market, GAC credentials tend to signal that a candidate has studied a specific security discipline in depth and has been tested against a defined body of knowledge. For a leadership credential, that matters, because the exam is not just asking whether someone likes management ideas. It is asking whether they can connect security knowledge to management responsibility.
For this certification, the important point is that GIAC is not treating leadership as vague motivation or personality style. The credential is tied to security program structure, operations, policy, projects, controls, risk, technical foundations, and business alignment. That gives it a more practical shape. A security leader may need to discuss budget 1 hour, vendor risk the next hour, vulnerability management after that, and incident response later in the day. The exam reflects that broad responsibility.
GIAC keeps certifications current through defined exam objectives, periodic updates, and changes to exam specifications when needed. The current objectives reflect the reality that security leaders need to understand cloud, artificial intelligence, privacy, vendor management, vulnerability management, monitoring, security operations, policy, and architecture. That makes the credential more useful than a static management exam frozen in an older version of cybersecurity. Security leadership changes because the environment changes. Identity platforms change. Cloud use changes. Monitoring changes. Business expectations change. Regulations and customer expectations change. A useful leadership credential has to keep moving.
The certification also requires renewal. Candidates should expect to maintain the credential through continuing professional education or by retaking the current exam. That matters because security leadership is not a one-time knowledge checkpoint. A manager who understood perimeter firewalls and antivirus years ago still needs to understand cloud platforms, identity risk, modern monitoring, software supply chains, privacy expectations, and business resilience today. Renewal keeps the credential tied to ongoing professional development, rather than treating security knowledge as permanent.
So, what does the exam really test? At a high level, it tests whether you can connect security knowledge to leadership decisions. It covers technical concepts, but it does not treat them as isolated facts. You need to understand why controls exist, how they reduce risk, what trade-offs they create, and how they fit into a managed security program. A candidate who can define a term but cannot explain how it affects operations, people, projects, or risk may struggle.
The exam objectives cover a wide range of management and security areas. These include cryptography concepts for managers, incident response, business continuity, security operations center management, application security, artificial intelligence, cloud security, encryption and privacy, vendor management, project management, security awareness, policy, endpoint and system security, program structure, network monitoring, network architecture, networking concepts, risk management, security frameworks, and vulnerability management. That sounds broad because the job of security leadership is broad. The exam is not trying to turn you into a specialist in every single area. It is trying to see whether you can understand enough across the landscape to make better leadership decisions.
In plain English, the exam is asking whether you can reason through practical questions. What does a security program need in order to support business goals? How should leaders think about risk, policy, controls, and accountability? What does a manager need to know about networks, endpoints, cloud, applications, and data? How do incident response and business continuity connect to leadership decisions? How do vendors, projects, and awareness programs affect the security program? How should security teams prioritize limited time, people, and budget? These are not just academic questions. They are the kinds of questions security teams face every day.
The thinking style is applied and managerial. It rewards broad understanding, practical judgment, and the ability to make decisions from a leadership perspective. You may still need to know technical terms, but the point is not to become the deepest engineer in every domain. The point is to understand enough to lead, ask better questions, recognize weak plans, support the right controls, and communicate security needs to technical and business audiences. In many organizations, the gap between the security team and business leadership is not only technical, it is a communication and prioritization gap. This certification is built around that middle space.
A common misconception is that GSLC is just a soft management certification. That is not really accurate.
It includes management topics, but it also expects technical literacy across security domains. Another misconception is that it is only for senior executives. It can help managers, team leads, and aspiring leaders well before they reach the executive level, especially if they already work around security operations, risk, systems, networks, applications, or governance. The credential is less about having a specific title and more about being ready to think at a broader level.
The current exam is a single proctored exam with 115 questions, a 3-hour time limit, and a 70% minimum passing score. GAC exams are web-based and proctored, with remote and testing center options commonly available. Candidates should always confirm the exact exam details in their account before scheduling, because certification specifications can change, and individual exam attempts may have details tied to the version assigned. The main idea is simple. You need enough preparation to move steadily, read carefully, and make good decisions without getting stuck on every question.
The difficulty feels different from a purely technical troubleshooting test. You are not only trying to remember definitions, you are trying to answer from the perspective of someone responsible for a security program. When you learn about encryption, think about data protection and privacy. When you learn about monitoring, think about what leaders need from a security operations center. When you learn about awareness, think about behavior change, measurement, and organizational risk. Each topic becomes more useful when you connect it to decisions.
A strong study approach starts by building the map before going deep. Review the major domains so you understand the full scope. Then study the leadership themes, including program structure, risk, policy, projects, vendors, operations, and communication. After that, strengthen the technical foundations that support those leadership decisions. That means reviewing networks, endpoints, cloud, applications, monitoring, encryption, and vulnerability management. Once the core topics are familiar, connect them to scenarios. Ask how each concept would affect a real organization, what decision it supports, and who would need to act on it.
For entry-level and early career readers, the biggest challenge is often breadth. You may have seen one part of security in depth, such as help desk operations, system administration, compliance evidence, or alert triage, but this exam expects you to zoom out. A good habit is to summarize each topic in your own words. Ask yourself what the topic is, why it matters, who owns it, what can go wrong, and how a manager would explain it to leadership. If you can answer those questions clearly, you are moving beyond memorization.
Hands-on practice can still help, but it should be balanced with management thinking. You do not need to build every tool from scratch, but you should understand what the tool is for and what decision it supports. For example, knowing that a SIEM collects and correlates logs is useful. Knowing how that supports detection, reporting, escalation, staffing, and incident response is more aligned with the leadership focus of the exam. The same is true for vulnerability management, cloud controls, endpoint protection, and policy. The tool matters, but the decision behind the tool matters more.
The Bare Metal Cyber Academy resources can fit into this roadmap naturally. The free audio course can help with repeated exposure during commutes, walks, or low-focus review time. The study guide can serve as the structured reading path when you need deeper explanation. The flashcards ebook can help reinforce terms, distinctions, and weak areas during short study sessions. Used together, those resources can support a flexible approach for people who are studying around work, family, and other responsibilities. The goal is not to turn preparation into a second full-time job. The goal is to make study time more focused and repeatable.
Time management also matters. With 115 questions in 3 hours, you cannot spend too long wrestling with every item. Practice reading carefully, eliminating weak answers, and moving forward when you have made a reasonable decision. For leadership-style questions, look for the answer that best supports risk reduction, business alignment, governance, accountability, and sustainable operations. The technically impressive answer is not always the best leadership answer. A good leader has to consider effectiveness, cost, ownership, timing, communication, and whether the organization can actually maintain the control. Career-wise, GSLC supports roles where security knowledge and leadership responsibility overlap. That can include security manager, information security manager, IT manager with security responsibilities, security operations lead, governance or risk lead, project manager for security initiatives, senior analyst, and technical professional moving toward management. It can also help professionals who frequently brief leadership, manage vendors, shape policy, or coordinate cross-functional security work.
Hiring managers may view the credential as evidence that a candidate is not limited to one tool or one technical lane. It suggests the person has studied how security programs are built, managed, and aligned with organizational needs. That does not replace experience, but it can strengthen a resume when paired with real examples of leading projects, improving processes, coordinating incident response, managing controls, or translating technical risk for non-technical stakeholders. The certification works best when it supports a real story about growth and responsibility.
In a broader certification path, this credential may come after foundational certifications or early technical experience. Someone might start with Security Plus, Network Plus, Linux Plus, or a vendor-specific cloud credential, then move into GIAC, ISAC, ISC Squared, or management-oriented certifications as their responsibilities expand. For some professionals, it may sit before or alongside credentials such as CISM, CISSP, CRISC, or CGRC, depending on whether their path leans toward leadership, broad security management, risk, governance, or compliance.
It is not the best fit for everyone. If your immediate goal is hands-on penetration testing, OSCP or Pen Test Plus may be more directly aligned. If your focus is audit, CISA may be a better target. If you want cloud engineering depth, a cloud security or cloud architecture certification may be more useful. If you are still building basic IT foundations, it may be better to strengthen networking, systems, identity, and security fundamentals first. The best reason to pursue this certification is that your work is moving from doing security tasks toward helping shape how security works. GSLC is most useful for professionals who are ready to connect cybersecurity knowledge with management judgment. It fits people who already understand some technical security basics and want to grow into team leadership, program management, security operations oversight, risk-informed decision-making, or broader security governance. It is not only about passing an exam. It is about learning to think like someone responsible for building and sustaining a security program. For busy professionals, the Bare Metal Cyber Academy resources can provide a structured, flexible way to prepare without turning the process into guesswork.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.